Today's episode of Market Zero is brought to you by theGrandSlamDunk.com, featuring sporting news, pop culture critiques, and enough nonsense to fill a stadium. Make sure to find us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, or just visit the website. Market. Welcome back and welcome home to the Market Zero podcast. We are coming at you today, the 6th of September. We've got a dueling mic podcast for you with Grant on Grant Street, calling in with Ben from his Southern Den. We're going to be covering the opening weekend of college football and recapping some shenanigans from theGrandSlamDunk.com's fantasy draft. We hope you enjoy.
G-Money, Uncle Ben, happy to be here. Glad to be a part. The Market Zero podcast. How you doing, my friend?
Oh, I'm doing outstanding, sir. How the fuck are you?
I'm doing great. After 4 full days of college football, I am fat and happy. Drunk on the football gods' wonderful nectar. It was a wonderful weekend. Had a great time. Watched a ton of football. Got more football in 4 days than I think I have in well, hell, man, since the Super Bowl. It was fantastic.
Oh, it was glorious. Yeah. Thursday football, college football on a Monday night. It was satisfying. Right. Satisfying to be sure. Yeah.
And crazy games. You know, ESPN billed this as the greatest opening weekend in college football history. And while that certainly is a lofty jump, you know, it truly was a great weekend for football. The 7 teams that were ranked in the top 25, ESPN dropped this stat this morning, came out, were losers, which is the first time in college football history that something like that has ever happened, where 7 teams have fallen in the first weekend. It's crazy.
Wow.
College football started off, yeah, isn't that nuts, dude?
That's nuts.
And college football started off last Thursday. The University of Tennessee, here in Knoxville, the Southern Den of the Ben.
Right,
they struggled,
your
man.
hometown now. You were in the thick of it there. Are people
and it was a little,
are buttholes tight down there now? Are people worried?
People were a little worried last Thursday. They were really quiet, you know, but leading up to the game, there was a lot of talk. You see a lot of orange around, and people are talking Rocky Top. And Friday, Saturday, Sunday, you know, I go out, and you don't see a lot of it there. Tennessee, the Tennessee Volunteers survived a scare from Appalachian State, which Appalachian State seems to be the team that every year, I don't know why any big school schedules them week 1.
They're a giant killer.
Michigan off. Yeah,
they're
they knocked Michigan off a couple years ago, and they almost knocked off Tennessee in Tennessee. Tennessee had to rally late to win that ball game. Final there was 20-13. Not something that I think the people in Knoxville were expecting.
No, definitely not for a top 10 ranking for a number 9 team to come out at home and stumble to, I mean, a mid-major. What, App State's not in a power conference. What? I don't even know. Are they Conference USA? I'm not even sure.
I have no idea, but I do know that the head coach for Appalachian State, those kids played with no fear. They walked into a very hostile environment, over 100,000 people screaming and going, and I mean they held it together, and they almost pulled off a very, very big upset. I was rooting for them. Tennessee really, you know, they seem like a typical SEC team in that they play really solid defense, and they did. Their defense kept them in the ball game. It could have been blown wide open, but their defense kind of hung around, and they were able to piece together some things there at the end of the game to get some scores. But you know, again, you know, not if I'm a Knoxville Volunteer fan, you know, if I'm a fan of the University of Tennessee, I'm sweating bullets a little bit. So.
Yeah, they really had high hopes, but you know, everybody knows how tough the SEC is. That's nerve-wracking. I mean, it is early. They survived. You know, a win is a win at this point, and they can totally recover. But yeah, some question marks down there in Knoxville. That's definitely.
It'll be interesting to see another team that survived. That is, they're definitely not near and dear to your heart, but you have some experience with these boys. The Stanford Cardinals survived a game against Kansas State, winning 26-13. Talk to me about that. I didn't see that game. Did you catch any of it?
No, I didn't see it. All I saw was McCaffrey had 2 touchdowns. I think it was close, but no, I didn't get to catch a whole lot of it.
Yeah, no, the headline was that, you know, that Stanford had to battle a little bit, but I feel like that's Stanford's MO, right? Like, they're gonna just out discipline the shit out of you. Like that's Stanford's kind of thing.
They don't blow anybody out. Yeah, they play close pro style games. They rely on their offensive line. They grind out. 26-13 is pretty typical score. I don't know. Yeah, Stanford, but not everybody's kind of like good, not great. I think that was kind of the story in the Pac-12 is you had Washington look real great. Stanford and Oregon, do what they're supposed to do, but not look that great. And then you had a bunch just kind of shit the bed. So I think Stanford's going to still be formidable. I think, they're going to hold their position. I think they deserve to be in the top 10 in that preseason ranking. Obviously, the preseason rankings are pretty meaningless and shouldn't hold any weight once they actually start playing. But I think Stanford's matched their ranking, but they've got to get some stuff together, definitely.
No, I agree. How are you? And we can skip ahead a little bit to the weekend. Oregon rolled over UC Davis. How are you feeling about the Ducks' chances this coming year?
Uneasy at best. I think the JUCO transfer quarterback Dakota Prukup. I don't know how to say his name. Dakota, the transfer Dakota. He looked solid. He did all right. So the quarterback play looked okay. They got a new defensive coordinator that was. The defense didn't look great. Again, they got a cupcake opponent in UC Davis. They still let them score a couple touchdowns, but it was a typical Ducks score. It was like 55-20. The offensive line is a concern. They got 4 freshmen, a couple redshirt guys, really inexperienced on the line. So I'm worried once they get into Pac-12 play against some of these stronger defenses, especially against a team like Stanford, it's just going to be a sieve on that line, and they're going to get too much pressure to execute the plays. So Oregon, like I said, they handled their business. They put up 50, but not a totally inspiring performance, much the same as Stanford.
Got you. Some other things in the Pac-12. Washington rolled over a cupcake. I guess Rutgers is a cupcake. I mean, they're only put up 13 points.
I don't know. They might be down this year, but Rutgers seems like a decent program. I think Washington scares the hell out of me as a Duck fan. Right.
No, Washington rolled. They're the number 14th. Currently, right now, they're the number 14th. I'm sure they'll go up because we had some losses in the top 25. And
so many losses.
I think that the game that you and I, when we were texting back and forth in this game, the Oklahoma boomer-busting Sooners lost to the Houston Cougars. Big game Bob Stoops showing his stripes. His team always seems to lose, but this time he lost pretty early. Houston with a pretty convincing win, 33-23 over the Oklahoma Sooners. I'm not a Baker Mayfield guy, nor am I a Bob Stoops guy, so I got some pleasure out of watching this happen. Your takeaway, my friend?
Boy, Houston is for real. That defense was stout. They came to play. They are fast. They are legit. I mean, Houston doesn't come to mind as a big-name program, but they are having sustained success. They just took down one of the historical greats, and, man, they look like they're for real. I think you can buy stock in Houston right now.
No, I agree with that. And, like you mentioned earlier, preseason rankings are always difficult. I think it's easier to rank professional football or professional basketball versus college football and college basketball because the pieces in college are always fresh and new and you really don't know. But the number 3 team coming into the season was Oklahoma, and to lose on a neutral site against the Houston Cougars, not a traditional powerhouse, that's got to be a big blow to the Oklahoma Sooner fan base, I would imagine.
I think so, but I think that number 3 ranking is some of that preseason bias. I think they got that top 5 rank because that was their name. And not necessarily because of the talent. And again, I don't know the team top to bottom. They might have enough talent to justify that ranking, but it felt like it was just picking Oklahoma because they were Oklahoma. And, I mean, like I said, Houston, man, they slapped them. They gave them a wake-up call, and now you've got one of those top 5 teams that is out of the picture now. I mean, this opens the door for a lot of those mid-levels, a lot of the ranks 10 to 15, 10 to 20. Those teams have a shot now. Because if Oklahoma would have won and just handled their business, they walk into that college football playoff. Now with this early season loss, those top 4 spots are they're open. Also, another top 5 school. How many did 3 out of the top 5 lose? 2 out of the top 5? It's insane. I'm thinking of the crazy Lambeau Field hosted a college football game, which was pretty cool, I believe, for the first time. And that Lambeau Magic pulled one out for the Cheeseheads. University of Wisconsin ended up taking down LSU, the Louisiana State Tigers, another SEC powerhouse. That was pretty interesting.
Right. Because that was another game that I watched as well, and that was a home game for Wisconsin. Let's not kid ourselves. That was not a neutral site game. That was definitely a home game for them. And LSU, they played okay defense, but they have nothing on offense other than Leonard Fournette. Their quarterback situation isn't the same. This was one of the reasons why people were talking about Les Miles getting fired last year, was because of this very issue. They just could not figure out the quarterback position and help Leonard Fournette actually be able to do something there. And then you're just relying on a really stout defense, but you can only go to the well so many times with that. Right. It definitely, I think if you're an LSU fan, you're disappointed. It's got to feel like you're watching a rerun of last year, and that you have this unbelievably talented football team with the Mad Hatter, at the helm, and yet in big time moments against Wisconsin, they weren't able to show up. I mean, and then they had I don't know if you remember their offensive guard, number 76. I'm escaping his name. Wisconsin gets the pick, and that guy just flies out of nowhere and just drills the kid.
Oh man, I almost forgot about that. But that was one of the most. That was like the bad guy out of the Karate Kid movie takes the late shot. Like, it was the most egregious, like, jaw-dropping. Like, are you kidding me? Like, I felt like I was watching a video game. It was like playing NFL Blitz on the Nintendo 64. When after the play you just run at a guy and you just jack him. That's what it looked like. It looked like a video game. Fuck that. That's such a dirty play. Yeah, thanks for bringing that up. That's crazy how fucked up that is. And I don't know if that speaks to the program or if that's just an individual incident to that player. But man, that is not in control. They suspended the kid, yeah. And they suspended the kid for at least the game coming forward. So at least they stepped up and were able to recognize that. But a totally egregious, not called for. I get that you're frustrated. You guys haven't been able to do anything on offense all day long, but don't act like a baby and hit a guy late like that. I mean, that's just bullshit. And on top of that, that dude has at least 200 pounds on the DB, man. Like, that's not fair. No, he could have fucked him up, man. You take a cheap shot like that, you could break a neck, you could crack a vertebrae, you could do any number of things concussion-wise. Not cool, dude. Yeah, not cool.
Yep. And we talked about Wisconsin a little bit beating LSU. The other names in the Big Ten are the ones that are usually there: Ohio State and Michigan. Both those teams rolled. Ohio State beat Bowling Green. That a baby Buckeyes. Way to schedule a tough opening opponent. 77-10. Michigan, same boat. They brought the crew from Hawaii into the Big House. They won 63-3. I feel like the Big Ten. This is the race in the Big Ten. I think it's Ohio State and I think it's Michigan. So I'm looking forward to that game here down the road. I'm hoping that neither one of those teams slip up, so that truly is a end-all be-all game there at the end of the year.
Yeah, I think it should be. I mean, I think everybody's been paying attention to Harbaugh and his kind of crazy shenanigans. Same old, he's just, face-eating crazy. He's just the most nutty guy you have ever seen. Again, I get the picture of him pounding the shoulder pads and, like, hyping up his quarterback. And you always see this from, like, Harbaugh's point of view. Nobody ever shows the picture of the face of the quarterback, because I'll bet they're just like, oh, my God, I'm going to die. I'm going to.
He's got to take, like, a shot of speed before he goes to practice or games, man, because he is fired up, dude. Or maybe he's drinking, a gallon of coffee before he goes out.
Whatever that dude is on, he is just jacked. I mean, who knows? Whatever it is, get me some of it the next time I have to do some yard work. Jesus.
Absolutely.
But they look they look great. I mean, Michigan looked like a force. Yep. They look like they're back. I mean, Harbaugh waved his magic wand, and he has one of the best teams in the nation again. So, I mean, enjoy it, Big Blue. I think, if anybody's going to beat him, it's Urban Meyer, but that should be a high-profile and interesting matchup that's probably going to have some dirty name-calling to it if Harbaugh does what Harbaugh does.
Well, and it really gets back to that old rivalry and harkens back to the days of Bo Schembechler and Woody Hayes, when the Ohio State-Michigan rivalry was really, truly one of, if not the best college football rivalry in the country. Now you have two marquee head coaches. Both teams are loaded. So I'm looking forward to, eyeballing them and obviously watching guys like Urban Meyer and Jim Harbaugh, who are not afraid to speak their mind in and outside of the press. both in the traditional sense in the press conference and also getting on the Twitter machine and trolling the internet. So those things will be fun to watch. I'm definitely looking forward to that. I don't know if we can transition a little bit here. Did you happen to watch the Georgia-North Carolina game?
No, I did not.
Okay, so Georgia has to rally back and play a North Carolina team. Georgia's ranked 18th in the country, and obviously the new polls came out today. I haven't had a chance to look at them, but and Georgia was down. North Carolina was really giving them the business. North Carolina 22 in the country, and Georgia was down at halftime. They rallied back behind a guy who I think should get his name thrown in the Heisman talk. And again, I know it's early. Nick Chubb went absolutely off for Georgia, and had those vintage runs that you've seen Christian McCaffrey have, and you've seen Leonard Fournette have. He definitely, I think, has thrown his name in the hat for the Heisman watch. An unbelievable performance. Georgia basically just saddled him up and rode. The tradition of outstanding running backs continues at the University of Georgia for the Bulldogs. Great game to watch, and also to see a Nick Saban disciple in Kirby Smart who took over this job. Georgia's a program that has never really been able to get over the hump the last couple of years. Weathered the storm a little bit from North Carolina and played an unbelievable football game. That was one of my favorite games of the weekend.
Excellent, man. I remember hearing Nick Chubb's name a couple years ago in the Heisman talk. I think he's dealt with some pretty devastating injuries maybe last year while he was off the radar. But the talent is undeniable, and he's. I'm looking at some stats now. Yeah, he looks like he really put on his man pants and just went to work.
Yeah, no, dude went off, which is good. I want Georgia to be good because they're going to have to run up against teams like the University of Alabama, who played Southern California, and this was one of my favorite games to watch as well, just because Alabama pulled out the boomstick and knocked USC all over the place. Your thoughts on USC dropping to Alabama?
I mean, it was varsity and JV. Alabama's in a different class, and it looks like the Pac-12 might have a down year. USC was thought to be at least capable of competing, but not on the same level at all. And I worry that no one will be. Like, I worry that maybe it's not that USC's even this bad. It's just that Alabama really is that much better than everybody else. That's what I worry about.
Yeah, no, they definitely. USC battled early, but then that kid totally Draymond Greened and nut stomped one of the Alabama guys. Do you remember that? And then that's when Alabama. Yeah, that's when Alabama got pissed off, and then they just unloaded. And it was kind of like Saban, I don't know if maybe he saw the replay and was like, okay, fuck that. And they just went on a march and beat the shit out of USC. It's always a good day when USC struggles. I appreciate that. Not that I'm a big Alabama fan, but I'm definitely not a USC fan. So it's nice to see that happen.
Yeah, the University of Spoiled Children got what was handed to them. They got bitch slapped. So I mean, but still, the California schools can't talk because top 25 ranked UCLA, they also bit the dust to a non-ranked Texas A&M team. So usually the LA schools like to talk shit back and forth, but both of those guys kind of fell on their face coming out of the gate. The Pac-12 South looks not great.
Mm-hmm. Which bodes well for you, right? Quack quack.
Well, it doesn't matter too much. I mean, we're all up in the north. We just got to worry about Stanford and Washington. It looks like most of the good teams are in one division in the Pac-12 right now. And Oregon, not super confident. Like I said, they did what they were supposed to do, but Washington looked good. And actually, they beat Rutgers. Rutgers is in the Big Ten now, so Rutgers is not they're not a non-school anymore. They've had a decent program, right. So Washington looks solid.
Right. One of my favorite tweets was from a guy that we met over the summer at one of our weddings, Jim Henderson, who is a fan of the Market Zero podcast. He's at Cubs
what up,
Land. Jim? Yeah. He had a great Facebook post where he said he's so glad that Alabama is, or how did he put it? He's so glad to see that Alabama is still scheduling cupcakes for their first games throughout the season or at the start of the season, something to that effect. Totally
in reference to USC.
Yeah, just slapping USC because he's a California dude. He lives out in California. Shout out to Jim, man. Thanks for listening to us. We appreciate it.
Yeah, man. Love you, Jim. Good shit.
Now, one of the later games, the Clemson-Auburn game, the Notre Dame-Texas game, and the Ole Miss-Florida State game, I feel like those were probably the three best football games over the weekend. Clemson had to go into Auburn, which was that's not an easy thing to do. And they have this kid, obviously they have the Deshaun Watson kid at quarterback, who's in the mix for the Heisman Trophy, obviously. But their wide receiver, it's either Mike Williams or Mike Wallace. And I'll look that up to get that right. Auburn couldn't cover the kid. He caught everything: double coverage, triple coverage, slant routes, fade routes, catching everything. Kept Clemson in the game. And Auburn rallied late, as Auburn often does, especially those games at home. But Clemson was able to hold off. So the number 2 team, Alabama wins, number 1 team, and the number 2 team, Clemson, is able to hold off a very tough opponent in Auburn. And I know Auburn isn't necessarily ranked, but even still, you're walking into the Tiger Den, bud, and that's not an easy thing to do.
That's a loaded road game, in the SEC. That's a tough challenge that they came away with, and I think Auburn's going to perform well enough throughout the year that this is going to look like a pretty solid win. I got the guy up. It is Mike Williams. He went 9 receptions, 174 yards, averaged 19 yards a catch. He had his longest to 34. So yeah, he was snagging them. He was snagging balls.
Yep. No, that was a fun game to watch. I was hoping, because my wife is a South Carolina Gamecock fan, and the South Carolina Gamecocks do not like the Clemson Tigers. So we fingers crossed. We were hoping Clemson would lose. But Dabo's done a good job recruiting. I still don't like some of the things they do on defense, but they were able to pull it out.
Yeah, definitely still right there as a contender. They're going to have tough wins, but I think that they're going to pull it out. Yeah, that quarterback is unreal, and keep an eye on that receiver, Mike Williams. He's incredible.
Yeah, so his story's interesting. I guess he broke a bone in his back last year,
really?
and had to sit out. Had a really tough rehab. Worked his ass off. Came back and had an outstanding comeback game. Dude, I'm telling you, nobody could cover the kid. Auburn was rotating corners. They put safeties on him. They were blanket, double coverage him, bracket coverage him, doing whatever they could. Nobody could cover the kid. So he's definitely put him on your Heisman radar, man, because he may sneak up on some people there.
All right, we'll keep an eye on him. Definitely a tall order for a receiver to get to the Heisman, but we'll keep our eyes.
I agree.
Hey, are we going to talk about how stupid Notre Dame blew it in the last against Texas? Another top 10 team.
Yeah, we should.
Nice work, Irish.
Go ahead, lead this one, bud.
Oh well, Notre Dame. They do the same thing all the time. They get ranked really high because they're Notre Dame, and then they come out and then they think because they're Notre Dame that they're just going to win. And then they get behind and realize they have to play, and they usually pull it out. They usually come back and they let me think that they're going to get beat, which I enjoy because my mom went to Purdue, and we don't like Notre Dame. And then they end up winning, and it's happened a lot. Right. They've got this MO. So I was watching the game, and an incredibly exciting game against Texas. Back and forth, up and down, but Notre Dame jumps out to a lead. Yeah, great football game, and we were texting too. And Texas looks legit. Texas looks like they're not, that the moment isn't too big for them. These players are playing with confidence. They're playing like they know what they need to do. And they went back and forth with Notre Dame. They got up, they got down. Game was back and forth, and they ended up pulling it out. They ended up getting the stop. A good push at the end. They scored that last overtime touchdown. They take down probably over-ranked number 10 Notre Dame. And Charlie Strong, signature win for the program. Seems like Texas is back. Texas, as a program, seems like they are back.
Which is good. I'm not a big Texas fan, but college football is better when the University of Texas is good. It just is. And I like Charlie Strong. I feel like he's a really good dude. He cleaned up a program that needed to be cleaned up, and now they look. I mean, their offense looks unstoppable. I mean, they're able to roll a kid in, and they can play a pro style offense where they're play action and throwing it deep down the field, and then they roll in the other big kid and they start running wildcat and zone read stuff, and they were just up and down the field all over Notre Dame. It was fun to watch, and Notre Dame's no slouch either, man. You got to give Brian Kelly some credit. While Notre Dame is and will always be overhyped, They're legit, man. The two kids that they have rotating in at quarterback, those guys were tough. I couldn't tell if it was both offenses were just so good or if both defenses were just so shitty in that game. The final score ended up being 50-47, and granted that's a double overtime game, but even still, man, I mean that's a lot of points on the board.
Yeah, I don't know. The overtime's always kind of inflated. I'm going to say good offense over bad defense. I think there's just a lot of talent on both sides of the ball, and I think Charlie Strong's got a good scheme. I think he's kind of, took the temperature of the Big 12, and I think he's got his guys in there, and I think he's got it seems like he's got it diagnosed. Seems like they're going to have some success this year for sure. Especially with Oklahoma losing and big game Bob doing what Bob does. It's open, man. The door's open.
I hope so, man. I hope so. I root for Charlie Strong. I hope it turns out for him.
Yeah, he's a good guy. I was really impressed with what he did at Louisville, and he's always struck me as a pretty solid individual, smart guy, and wants to do it the right way. And hopefully that's how they're doing it at Texas.
Well, and he's been all over the board too. I mean, he was the defensive coordinator at South Carolina. He was also the defensive coordinator for Urban Meyer down in Florida. Then he was the head coach at Louisville. So this is a traveled and seasoned and veteran coach. So again, you root for him, and it is always for Notre Dame haters, which we are, my friend. We are definitely Notre Dame haters. It is always glorious when the Gold Domers drop one, especially early. Yep,
indeed. Although it doesn't put him out of contention, which is upsetting, as it would for most teams.
But that's okay. I feel like Notre Dame. Again, college football is better when Notre Dame at least is in the mix. That's what I want. I want Notre Dame to be in the mix and then have the soul-crushing game where it all falls apart for them in October and November.
Yeah, and the older I get, the wiser I get, the more I'm able to take a step back and really assess what's important and what you don't really need as much of, and it's fun. It's fun. College football needs Notre Dame. College football needs someone for me to dislike vehemently and get in arguments with and eyeball other guys at the bar that I'm watching, and a crook eye down the other end. Right. It makes it more of it adds to the overall experience. It is what makes college football great. So sure, keep overinflating Notre Dame's ranking all you want, America.
We can go ahead and mark that.
Mark that.
Hey, so the last game of the college football madness weekend happened last night. Ole Miss taking on Florida State in a neutral site. Do you know where they were at? I couldn't figure out watching the game where they were at. I know they said it, but I had the volume down really low and I couldn't figure it out.
No, I've got the game recast now. I don't know where they were. I actually didn't realize it was neutral site.
Yeah. So anyway, we'll look that up and we'll figure it out. Florida State was down early to Ole Miss. Ole Miss struck early, and they were up right before half. It was 28 to either 6 or 7, I believe. Florida State was able to drive down, score, cut the lead from that to 28-13, and then Florida State went on a tear in the second half, scoring 23 unanswered points in the third quarter. They were able to pull it out against Ole Miss 45-34. I was impressed watching Jimbo Fisher and Florida State. They took Ole Miss's best punch, and they weathered the storm. They're starting a redshirt freshman at quarterback. They took the initial hit and they just kept on slugging along. Florida State looks really good. I think that number 4 ranking that they have is legit. Unlike the number 3 ranking for the Oklahoma Sooners, I believe that Florida State looks like a top 3 team to me right now.
Yeah, like you said, they took Ole Miss's best punch, and it was a hell of a punch. They came out fast and looking potent. The offense was flowing, and they put up points right away. Florida State had a couple quirky plays. They had Delvin Cook, their best guy, actually had like a weird fumble drop of a surefire touchdown.
Yeah, that was wild. Yeah.
That ended up. So I think it should have been a little bit closer at halftime. But yeah, like you said, Florida State just woke up. And what a second half team. Have you ever known of a team in Jimbo Fisher's teams the last couple years that have been more comfortable playing from behind? I think like 7 of the last 9 or 10 times Jimbo's been trailing at halftime, he wins the game. Doesn't matter. Right. Doesn't matter.
Well, and you even remember that when they had Jameis Winston,
exactly.
They just never seemed
all
out of it.
Season.
They just kept playing the games, and it didn't matter how much they got down. You have to play Florida State, from gun to gun, otherwise, you're gonna be, up shit creek without a paddle. So I agree with you there, man. I can't remember the stat that I referenced to you yesterday. Something like Jimbo Fisher has like 68 wins in the last 7 seasons, which is more than any other head coach in college football right now. And you can give a lot of credit to Jameis Winston and those Florida State teams, but you can't give all the credit to that. Something has to be said. He's just a really good football coach who doesn't get too high, who doesn't get too low, is nice and steady, and they got something brewing out there down at in Florida State.
Yeah, they definitely have good talent. I mean, I think the longer that Jimbo continues to do this, I think you have to kind of take some of the credit away from Jameis from all those times, and it seems like Jimbo just gets his teams to do this. We'll see if Jameis can pull out Jameis Winston can pull out some comebacks and can do that kind of same thing because he is a special talented player, and he did make some pretty incredible plays down the stretch. But this seems like a Jimbo thing. This just seems like this is what his teams do. And yeah, like you said, that is very valuable when you get into a 3.5 hour, 4-hour game, nationally televised on New Year's Day in the college football playoff, and you just got to survive and keep playing. And it looks like, this Florida State team knows how to play forever until they get it done. And that's going to bode well for them later on down the stretch. I think they definitely have that ranking. The couple teams in the top 5 slipped. I think right now you definitely go Alabama, them, and Clemson as the 1, 2, 3s right now. And I think Alabama definitely has the 1, but between Clemson and Florida State, I think I'd like Florida State as 2 right now.
Right. Well, and the great thing about that is, those. I mean, there is the path in the ACC. I mean, the ACC is Clemson and Florida State. Miami rolled. Sisters of the Poor, or whoever they played, they won by like 70 points as well. So we'll have to see. But Florida State and Clemson both playing SEC teams, good SEC teams. And coming out with victories there, that bodes well for them. So when those two get together in the ACC, and I don't know if they're on the schedule or if they're going to meet in the championship game or not, but that'll certainly be a great game. In the Big 12, it's nice because you got Texas, but who else really impressed you in the Big 12? Baylor struggled in. Let me look that up before I put my foot in my mouth. But they didn't have an impressive win. I think they rolled somebody. Come on, stats.
The Big 12, yeah, I didn't really see much. I think TCU might still be a contender. I mean, Kansas State didn't look too bad in that loss.
Right.
Baylor actually beat the hell out of Northwestern State. They've got a cupcake.
So there you go. They didn't,
right now.
They didn't beat anybody. And then TCU struggled to win, and they won 59-41 against South Dakota State. So, the Big 12 not very strong. We still don't really know there, but like the ACC, it's Clemson and Florida State. In the SEC, it's Alabama and whoever is willing to show up to the knife fight. And in the Pac-12, you got, Stanford and Oregon, to keep your eyes on there. So again, it's very early to make some bold predictions with that. But the great thing is that college football is back, and it was a hell of a lot of fun this last weekend.
Absolutely, man. It was a ton of fun. It's good to have those Saturdays back, and hopefully we'll get some more. Thursday, Friday, Saturday. I just loved how many days in a row there was college football. Outstanding.
Well, we had another football related thing that happened over the weekend. I don't know if you remember the GrandSlamDunk.com Fantasy League Draft was held.
Oh, yes.
Friday? Was it last Friday?
It was Friday, indeed. Indeed it was. History was made.
We had a glorious time with a 3-way Skype call from Knoxville to North Dakota to Denver, Colorado. We had just about everybody except for I think 2 or 3 people weren't on the call, but we were able to kind of get everybody digitally connected. I don't know. Talk to me, G-Money. How are you feeling about your squad?
I'm feeling pretty good. I am feeling pretty good. I was a little uninformed about the severity of the Jamal Charles situation, so I ended up with Jamal and totally slipped and didn't take his backup. So I actually had to do a quick early season trade to get Spencer Ware for Jamal Charles for that 1 week. Yeah, I did. I gave up a lot for him. I gave up Chris Ivory as a straight-up trade. Yeah, so that's actually, pending review. There's still another day for league members to veto the trade, but I think it's pretty fair. I have a pretty big need that I fucked up on, and I'm giving up probably the lesser or the better player in the trade. But I need him. So hopefully Jamal is okay. Other than that, I think I did pretty good. I did go for Big Ben. I am hitching my wagon to the rapist Ben Roethlisberger. So we'll see. Former or alleged, maybe former alleged. Maybe I'm not sure what to call him. That dude, the Pittsburgh guy, the big guy.
Yeah, that guy.
So I've got him. Decent receivers. I had the third pick, so I took Julio. So I've got Julio Jones. I've got Jamal Charles and Duke Johnson as running backs. I got Emmanuel Sanders, Allen Robinson, those guys, Vincent Jackson. So I feel all right. I feel okay. Cairo Santos, the projected third best kicker, was left at the end of the draft. No one touched Kansas City's kicker. I found that curious.
There was a kicker issue during our draft. Do you remember?
There was. Ooh, who took the? Oh God, non-sports guy Doug had a little kicker snafu, didn't he? Right. He had a little. He went a little glitch.
He went to take his. Well, there were two kicker controversies. Non-sports guy Doug went to take his kicker in like the 7th round. He was going to jump up early and grab the kicker, which. Fantasy players always debate when and where you should jump up to take your kicker. I am of the belief that if you want your guy, you go take your guy and you don't worry about it. But he accidentally clicked the wrong button. He did. I don't even remember who he wanted. He wanted Carolina's kicker, Graham Gano. And he ended up getting somebody else. What was great about that, G-Money, is about 3 rounds later, I was up and in a position where I needed to take my kicker. And guess who was sitting there, G? Graham Gano, sitting there for me, like a Christmas present on a wonderful December 25th morning. Just gift wrapped right there, and I scooped him up. Non-sports guy Doug, I don't think he's talked to me since that happened. I think he's still bitter about it. And I'm here to say on the Market Zero podcast that if he's willing to trade. Not that he has anybody on his team that I would want, but if he's willing to trade, I'm open to proposals. Non-sports guy Doug, just go ahead and send it my way, my friend.
A kicker deal could be interesting. Yeah, maybe you package it with some other stuff. I don't know. If he really wants his kicker, he's got his eye on it. Maybe he's willing to go for it.
The other thing that the other kicker controversy, and you may not have been privy to this. I was privy to it just because it was my wife who was sitting right next to me. She spent the whole day talking about how she had a sleeper pick, and her sleeper pick was going to be this great thing, and she wasn't going to tell me who it was. And I was like, all right, whatever. Good luck to you, right? So then, Big Willie style, my good friend, your good friend, one of the Green brothers that frequents our podcast.
Friend of the podcast, indeed. He's been on the pod.
He steps up and takes Stephen Gostkowski. I think I'm saying his name right. New England. That's
Gostkowski,
right?
Yes, Stephen Gostkowski. Yeah.
And my beautiful, wonderful, gorgeous bride spikes her stuff. The packet in which she put together with her notes goes flying in the air. The obscenities are rolling. It was a good thing Will wasn't on the webcam because he hasn't actually met my wife yet. So that would have been a really rough introduction all over a kicker. So she was a little upset about that.
Oh man, that's hilarious.
It's fantasy,
but I love it.
It's fantasy football. That's what happens.
Yeah, and if you've drafted more than once, you will have a moment in your draft where it's just like throw the fucking papers. Like, God damn it. Like you see the guy and he's coming to you and he shouldn't be there, but he is. And it's like, yeah, I'm gonna get him. And oh man, I've been thinking about this, and right before his name just poof disappears. Or that button you're about to click goes from draft player to drafted by. It's like, God damn it. And you just throw your papers. You just throw them and you bang. And then you yell at whoever took him before you and say, God damn it, why did you take my player? And they had no idea that it was your player. It was their player. Right. They took him. It's always the joys of fantasy.
I'm feeling pretty good about my squad, man. Rounding out the bottom starts Cam Newton. We got Arian Foster, who was just named the starter in Miami. He beat out Lamar Miller, so that makes me feel really good. I drafted 4th, and Todd Gurley was sitting right there, so I took Gurley. I'm a little nervous because the Rams really don't have a quarterback. They're going to be pretty run heavy, but I just think he's that good. I got Brandon Marshall, Malcolm Floyd, Zach Miller's my tight end. I got Kelvin Benjamin, who I think is going to have a resurgence. I got sitting on my bench, I got Giovanni Bernard, Derrick Henry, Alfred Morris, Larry Fitzgerald, a suspended Josh Gordon. So hopefully he'll get off suspension here in a couple weeks and he'll be able to help me out. Marquise Wheaton, I got Graham Gano. Again, non-sports guy Doug, I'm willing to talk, my friend. And the Oakland Raiders defense, I'm feeling pretty good, G-Money.
That's not bad. Yeah, I like the bench. I definitely like the Derrick Henry. I like Larry Fitzgerald. I think Marcus Wheaton's a great pick. I've got a second team with my family that I've actually got a lot of the players you have on that team. I'm curious, do you remember when you nabbed Zach Miller as the tight end? What round?
Oh, it was late.
Pretty late.
It was late. Tight end, yeah. Well, tight ends went early. Someone started the run early with tight ends in our league, but I was able to snag him late. He was one of my last picks.
Yeah. So, and I kind of slipped in my other league too, and let tight end and quarterback position go a couple rounds longer than I should have. But I ended up with Zach Miller too, who is he is dealing with some concussion injury, but it sounds like he is moving through the protocol. And on the depth chart, he is listed as the starter. So I mean, while the Chicago Bears are probably going to suck a lot, they're going to have to throw to somebody. And I think check down dumps to tight ends are going to be the outlet. So I think he's going to be a solid producer. I think he's going to be a starting production tight end. So I think that's a pretty good value. Man. Pretty good value.
No, and that's Jay for as shitty of a quarterback as Jay Cutler is, and he is a shitty quarterback. You know, always having the safety valve of a tight end has always been, you know, when he learned that back with Mike Shanahan, that's always been something that he likes at his disposal. So I like the pick, man. You know, fantasy football is great in drafting and talking a bunch of shit. But after, you know, the first week or two, I seem to always feel that you and I call each other at one point and being like, God dang it, why in the hell do we play fantasy football? We fucking hate it. So
there will be, absolutely, there will be the hair-pulling, teeth-grinding, shove my face into a door frame moment where it's like, why am I doing this to myself? Why? Why did I agree to do this again? It's so frustrating, and it's guaranteed to be frustrating. There is no avoiding it. If you pay attention, even a shred, you will be frustrated, and you'll want to poke your eyes out with a rusty spoon. Because that's fantasy football, and we love it.
And we'll go ahead and mark that.
Mark it.
G-Money, we got anything else we want to talk about, brother?
You know, Ben, I think that's all I've got for now. The draft recap is good. I think we should definitely plan to have most, if not all, of the participants on the pod to kind of discuss their draft and their fantasy football teams.
I agree.
If you'd agree to that, I think we should definitely get that going. So you guys can look forward to that. You can look for personalities on theGrandSlamDunk.com. Again, almost all of our contributors have a little headshot and some info about them. We'll continue to add to that as contributors come on. And also keep an eye out for some some gambling previews. We are going to make some final bets this week about we're going to pick some weekly game lines and do some parlays. Also give you some final bets for over-unders, some adjustments with injuries and updates, things like that. So keep an eye out for that.
Our NFL show.
The
NFL show is coming. Market NFL is coming. I'm so excited, G.
Market NFL. It's going to be a weekly installment of the Market Zero podcast, Market NFL. So, yeah, keep an eye out for that. Again, you can find us on the website, theGrandSlamDunk.com. Make sure you check us out on YouTube. Market Zero is on YouTube now. You can search theGrandSlamDunk.com or Market Zero. Look for our patented logo. And, again, you can find us on iTunes, SoundCloud, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram.
We're all over the internet, baby.
All over the internet. All over. Go find us.
I love it, baby. Let's go ahead and mark it.
All right, let's mark it.